Welcome to New Hope Celebrates History Artists and Authors Series. Today we are going to visit with three local artists, Cathy Begg, Donna Lillo, and Erin Simmons. Take a walk with me down Bridge Street to the Boardwalk where their studios are located. A boardwalk in New Hope? Yep, located right behind New Hope Arts and across from the iconic New Hope Railroad. These three incredibly talented women have created an artist community with a sense of deep caring, cooperation, support, and friendship. Although each work with very different mediums, they are very much alike in their spirit, heart, and caring. Each adds to the New Hope history of being an artist colony, a tolerant and accepting community, and a town that supports others. Let's drop in on their morning coffee chat, learn about each artist, and visit the individual studios and galleries to learn about how they developed their careers and their wonderful camaraderie.
So what brought you here? Well, what brought me to New Hope was I was a college student up in down in Trenton State.
Right.
And I took a Sunday drive and ended up in Lambertville.
Okay.
So, which is a cute little town back then. It had, you know, a sporting goods shop, a haberdashery, bakeries. It had all that. And then I kind of walked across the bridge and said, "Wow, this is a really artsy place. I think I really love it here." And walked around New Hope, you know.
And that was your first time ever?
First time ever. Never even knew there was a New Hope. And I walked down this one alley. I haven't found it since. And I've been up here for 40 years. Had not found this place since then. And there was this older gentleman, who's probably passed by now. And he said, "Young lady, when you get serious about your artwork, come see me."
Really?
Yeah. So I got serious about my artwork and tried to find him, and I haven't found him yet. I moved to Lambertville because I found an apartment and started trying to get involved in the art community because I lived in Atlantic City before.
Right.
And I was really involved in the art community down there. But when you move to a new place, it's really hard to break into the arts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like my first introduction to the arts I call New Hope and Lambertville sister cities, you know, because it's just really one place.
Right.
And they were doing the Shad Fest, the first year of the Shad Fest. And they were doing a poster contest. So I did a poster. And that was my first introduction to the arts in this area.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's what brought me up here. And I ran into New Hope Arts. And Ricky and Paul, who had a Sidetrack Gallery, and they were doing a show called Naked in New Hope. And it was going on, I think they did 12 years of it. And I just happened to have some sculptures that just happened to be in my trunk of my car. And Ricky came out, saw my sculptures, and put them in the show. And that was my first show in New Hope. And one of them sold, my first show, and now it's in Australia. So I was like, huh. So I came up and said, let's see what's inside this building. So I walked upstairs, and Robin Larson was the director.
Right.
And Christine was her assistant.
Yep, that's who started it.
Christine happened to be sitting there, and I said, "Do you all do anything that has anything to do with wood?" And Christine broke out in this huge laughter and that wonderful smile that she has. Mm-hmm. And she says, "Well, we're starting to take applications for the wood show." I said, "Oh." And she must have thought I fell off the wagon. So anyway, that's how I got to New Hope. And I've been here ever since. How about you, Don? What got you here?
I think what got me here when I was like 15 and starting out, I came to New Hope cutting school one day. And I used to say to my friends, I want to be an artist and live in New Hope someday.
Wow, that's
and
cool.
And finally came to New Hope, I think at the age of 22. Lived in Lambertville the way you did, because Lambertville at that time you could afford it more.
Yeah.
And now I live in New Hope. We have our studios here, work here. That's what brought me here, and the gay community brought me here too. Being gay, I mean, everybody is together, and there's lots of stuff to do.
That's what kept me in Lillo.
Yeah.
That's what kept me here. Because I was living in other places.
So between the art and the gay community, I think
Yeah.
that's what really brought it home for me. What about you?
Well, so I moved here about 7 years ago from New York. Lived on a river town, basically, in New York, on the Hudson River. And came here 7 years ago and was living closer, like right on the suburbs of Philly, and not happy because I missed like history, I missed art, and I had all that back in New York. So the two things I need to kind of be happy are history and art. And when I was going probably on a drive to New Hope and saw like, oh, this reminded me so much of my home, that I was like, how do I become a part of this community? At the same time, I'm a director of Big Brothers Big Sisters, the program director, and all the art that I was making, I was putting in all the seconds. I was doing some craft fairs, but all the seconds I was putting into my office, and my staff, which I don't know if this is a good thing or not, but then they'd come in and they're like, you're missing your calling. So I was procrastinating one day writing a grant and went on LoopNet and saw this space,
studio.
and I was like, are you kidding me that this is available? So I talked to my boss and I said, this is something I have to do. Talked to like probably the most practical people in my family, and thought they would say, no, it's not the right time for it. But they said, you have to do this. So I came here, and I've got a small shop, so it's manageable. Only open on the weekends.
Right.
My boss was totally behind me. She knew that I had to follow my dream, and still work at.
So you do
Big
both.
Brothers Big Sisters, so I do both. And I can't imagine. I would literally drive up and down York Road and just be excited about all the different places that I would see. And there's literally no way that I want to be anywhere else. I've got the river, I've got the history.
You have us.
I have you guys. And I will say, my first day,
Right.
I met Cathy and that hat, and I was like, yep, I'm in the right spot. I'm like, this is going to be fun. And then when I met you guys, I was just like, we are off the beaten path, right? So we have to do a little bit extra work than we do on Main Street.
I must say that we have to give you credit for the social presence that she's brought to our studios.
I love setting things up.
Yep.
So
Yes.
doing a lot of doing the graphic stuff, and then you guys just agreeing to let's all do this together.
Yeah.
And then you saying that you've been calling this Canal Walk studios or whatever. So we went with that.
Right.
We were able to basically get the one Saturday a month.
Right.
We decided we were going to just blow it out, and you would have a new artist. I would do things. You would be open later, so people.
And that's
could
the
see you do
third
this day class.
Saturday of every
Yep,
month.
third Saturdays. So we call them third
We
Saturdays.
stay open till
And
8:30 at night.
It's really been a great event.
Yeah.
We have
We've got
live music.
Yeah. We've got the lights now to bring people up.
You have artist openings most third
Yeah.
Saturdays. This past third Saturday, you
I
had
had
a
the
book
first
reading.
book
Yeah.
reading.
And I think the other thing that makes this place special is that we're all working studios.
Yes,
It's not just that we hang work, we make
we're
work
in our
here.
studios
Yes.
working.
Yes. You can go
And in
out
the
on
summertime,
the
we
deck.
work outside.
on the deck or here. So it's a great place to visit, it's a great place to come, it's a great place to be. And we have a really good friendship between us all. So it's been this is what we do. We sit and we talk for about an hour, and then we say, time to get to work, let's
Yep.
go, ladies.
See you in a couple
Time to
hours.
I've been
Let the
here-
walls down.
I've been here 10 years.
And I've been here 13.
And
You've
I
been
opened
here.
in June of 2020.
Right
So
there
we're
the
out.
pandemic. So anyway, I think what the friendship developed slowly over time. We were just doing our work. I was outside doing a lot of carving then.
Getting feedback from each other on
From
our
artwork,
artwork. And if we sell something, we run over to the other person's studio.
Do a
We're all
high five.
high-fiving
Yeah.
each other all
Yeah.
the time.
All the time.
Just
High
and
fives.
the energy that we give each other is just awesome.
Very important. If we're having a bad day, we kind of could say, hey, it's not a great day, but
Help each other with pricing.
Yeah.
We're
Borrow
a good
tools.
team.
We are.
a We're a big team.
It's a good place. It's a wonderful place to work.
I
It's
love
a
coming to
wonderful-
work every day.
I do too.
I do. I love
I
it.
And because we're also giving, because we give to each other and things, we also give to the community.
Yes.
And I don't want to forget that because you've done that special event where the kids painted the tiles
Yeah.
and then sold them, and you donated the money to an organization.
Yeah, we had the 2 elementary schools. They made their art, and then we were able to give close to $400 to Bucks County SBCA and $400 to Pine to Think.
Yeah.
So that was fun because we want to,
Yeah.
incorporate the community.
And every year I donate time, space
Yeah.
to some organization. There was one time the Homefront had a gallery show here, and every year I do that, and you help out with that, and we all work together. So not only are we making art, enjoying each other's company, but we always try to get back to the community. And one thing about working is every little child that comes up here, we treat as special new artists.
That's fun.
That's going to become an artist someday.
I have crayons that say future art for free for future artists.
Yeah,
and they grab the packets.
And I have drawings that I give to the kids,
Yeah,
just so that, you know.
You do. You
Yeah.
give a lot.
You know, just because I want them to keep working in the arts, because it's a great career. It's a great way to live.
I've actually, kids have come in with that the parents are saying that they are artists, and my thought is you don't have to wait till you're 18. Bring me something, we'll frame it. And we actually did that. We did that for a couple months ago for Lambertville for the flooding.
Mm-hmm.
A little girl, 8 years old, made a piece on canvas.
Mm-hmm.
I went and framed it. She sold it for $40. I gave her 20, so she understood the whole idea of, you know, like burning, like making money.
Right.
And then we gave $20 to Lambertville Strong.
That's nice.
Right. So it's perfect.
It's nice.
It is good. Hello, my name is Cathy Begg. I'm an artist here at 43 Canal Studio, and we're going to show you a little bit of my work. I believe art starts young, and you can develop your artwork. And this was one of the things I did for a contest, which I won on Celebrating Us, which was commissioned by Smithville Inn, which is down in Atlantic County by Atlantic City. And it was a competition for all the high schools, and so I won that. This is the pen and ink that I did with a quill tip pen, which is a very fine point pen, and you had to be very careful because you had dipped it in an inkwell, and you couldn't. You had to be careful so you didn't splatter, and the pen point had to glide across the paper. It couldn't just stick on it, or you'd get this big blob. And the one thing about working with pen and ink is that if you make a mistake, that's it. Throw it away, start over. You don't have anything to correct with. Now, over time, I had to develop another form of artwork, of which I did, which is also pen and ink with watercolor, but because I've had some health issues over time, my artwork changes based on what my body can do. And I did my pen and ink for a long time. Then I had a health issue in 2005, and I didn't draw again until 2014. And the reason I couldn't draw is because I couldn't hold a quill tip pen anymore. But someone found for me a marker that has the same quality of line, but it's fatter, so that I could hold it. And these are some of my pen and inks and watercolors that I did since 2014. But currently I can't draw again because I had another neurological event, and I can't hold it, even that pen. So these are some of my drawings, and I will get back to it, but I have to wait till my hands catch up. Like now, my health dictates my art, and one of the things I did to try to bring my hands back was I started making paintings out of sawdust. I make a clay, and I still doing this now. I'm going to do some more of it, but I make clay, and then that clay, I manipulate the clay, and I mold the clay, and it takes 48 hours to dry, and then I paint it. I developed this so that I could bring my hands back, but also because I got tired in occupational therapy just putting clothespins on baskets. So that's what I did to bring my hands back. Now, the one thing about having a neurological event is your brain changes a little bit. And I started to work with wood, first carving small pieces, and then working to larger pieces. These are some of the small carvings that I did. And then from there, I moved on to building out and creating these little lamps. And I have another one over in the corner here that has different types of wood. It has, cedar and mahogany and some black walnut in it. But each one of those are hand done. I don't use large tools. And this is one of my sculptures that has been in many shows. And it was also up in a show up in New York City. So this is called Lady Luck. And I've been very fortunate in my life to be able to do my art and to share it with a lot of people. I currently had another neurological event, and I haven't been able to work in drawing or with my wood because I couldn't hold the woodworking tools. So an artist always has to create, and I always have to create. So I had to find something I could do. So I started with carving with my grinder, aluminum, because aluminum is extremely soft. And I could hold the grinder for 5 or 10 minutes at a time to start to grind. And these are just 2 of them that I have left. I sold the rest of them, but anyway, I started grinding, and then after grinding, I could hold a paintbrush, so I started to paint, which I used to do all the time. So then I moved over to copper. Now, with working with the copper, I was able to not only carve and paint on it like I did with the aluminum, but then I started playing. And art is meant to be joyful. It's meant to get you motivated. It's meant for experimentation. And as when you experiment, sometimes you come up with new things. And I decided I wanted to see the patina of the copper. And all of this copper was bright and shiny right here. This is the first one I did. And the one thing that you can see is I still wanted to draw. So I was able to take one of my drill points that was like 1.5 inches wide so I could hold it. And I drew into the copper. And then I said, So then I started playing around with natural acids and started to etch into the copper. And that's how I came up with these. Now the thing is the copper will continue. I don't put anything on top of the paintings. I put something on top of because I kind of want those colors to stay the way they are. So I kind of stop the oxidation by putting something on top so it kind of stays just where it is. Now on these, I don't. And over time, each one of these colors that came out with the different oxidations is all going to create its own little patina. But hopefully, and I've watched it happen, the patinas will keep the same value tone. They'll gradually work its way down. And so the patinas will always will work in that same fashion. One won't overpower the other. Because I worked, like I mentioned earlier, that I worked up in the New Hope Arts working wood, I've always tried to create something for that. And this table here, I did, and was in the working wood show. And a priest just happened to be up visiting a friend, and they came to working wood, and he liked it and said, "Would you consider doing a lectern for me?" And I said, "Wow, yeah." So I did a lot of different drawings for him, and he had to go back to Mississippi, so we were sending back and forth to each other. And then finally he picked out what he wanted, and I was able to design the lectern. And then he said, "Okay, besides the lectern, let's do an altar." So I said, "Okay." So we went to the local wood place that I go to, and John, who is a wonderful, I call him an artisan, even though he probably doesn't, because he helps you pick out the right wood. And he's such a wonderful man. He delivered all the wood to my home. which is hard because these were tree trunks. And I carved into the tree trunks to create the natural, you wanted the altar to look like it grew right out of the ground. So that's what we achieved. And I think he was very happy with them. But this project I'm really proud of. It's in New Hope. It's down off of Main Street. It is a railing to go to the apartments. And the story behind this was the granddaughter's grandfather was a merchant marine. And he would always tell her stories about the 7 mermaids. And so she wanted a railing that showed the 7 mermaids. So we had to do two railings. They were just these big planks of wood. And I drew the drawings, she approved them. And I carved them, and we made this wonderful walkway that's a tribute to her grandfather and functional, because it works for the tenants that live at that place. So that's just some of my work.
I'm Donna Lillo, owner, artist of Lillo Stained Glass Studio, located in the New Hope Arts Building on Bridge Street. I've been doing this for a living since I was 15 years old. I started at a studio when I was 15, apprenticing. My parents actually had to sign working papers to allow me to work at the studio. I stayed with them all the way through college. I have a commercial art degree, and by the time I got out of college is when I started wandering into New Hope and figuring that I wanted to be in New Hope and live in New Hope and be an artist in New Hope. So I moved to New Hope, and after college got a job in another studio in New Hope. I worked in 2 different studios, and then I'd say by the time I was I was like 25 years old, I knew that I knew more than the boss that I was working for at the time, so I decided it was time to get out on my own. So in 1985 is when I started Lillo Stained Glass Studio, and I've been in maybe 3 locations in New Hope, on Main Street, on Bridge Street. But when I came to the New Hope Art Center, this is where I really love being, because of what we talked about before, about us all working together and being together in the studios, sharing each other's work, doing everything together. So my business has, I'd say, about 3 different aspects to it. I have the retail end of the business, which is basically everything that you see hanging in the studio. It's open to the public. Then I have commission work, where this is for a couple that just got married, and I'm doing their initials with a rose running through it, so that, and they pick their colors and everything, and that's their artwork. The drawings that you see on the wall have all been, this drawing right here went in somebody's house, and if we turn around you can see the finished product. She actually brought it back to me last week because she broke a piece in it, so I'm going to fix it for her. Her name is Vita. I have other drawings back on the sidewall back there that are all going in people's homes. These are transoms. These drawings will turn the other way. These are all going in people's homes. Commission pieces. The heron is something I'm going to be doing for a show that I'm going to be going into. My jewelry boxes is part of my wholesale business. My wholesale business, I sell to over 85 galleries across the country. They're all American handcrafted galleries. Some of the best artists are in these galleries. So that's a nice thing to be able to tell people, that I'm in that many galleries. And this is my work table where I do all my cutting of my glass. I do a lot of my drawings here. After I cut the glass, back there is my soldering station where I do all my soldering. People worry about ventilation. I have a big HEPA ventilation system. I wear a respirator during the week because the lead fumes can be dangerous. It's nice when people come into the shop when I'm standing here working. They love to come in and watch me working and cutting glass. If children are big enough, I'll let them come around the table and actually let them cut glass. The smaller kids, I end up giving them like jewels or something if they're good in the studio. But it's good to tell the kids that, you know, I've been in art since I was probably 6 or 7 in art classes. And the best part of this story is that I went to Catholic school. My parents were devout Catholics. And when it got to be my freshman year, I wanted to be an art major. Well, for some reason, the nun wouldn't let me become an art major. My mother, being a devout Catholic, took me out of Catholic school and put me in public school. That's how much they supported me being an artist. So my mom used to say until the day she died, I wish that you could go back and tell that nun what you did with your life and how successful you've been with your business. So I have to credit my parents because my mom found me the job when I was 15. She took me out of school to keep me being an artist. They set up a studio in their house for me so that I could do my work. So, and all of these lamps, these 2 lamps, hung in my parents' house until the day that they died. I mean, this one is actually signed, Made with Love from Mom and Dad, 1985. And that's my story. And I love it.
Donna Lillo is probably one of the most gifted stained glass workers I have met. She is innovative, creative. She probably doesn't give herself enough credit for what she does. She tends to minimize the impact her stained glass has had on a lot of people, and her creativity in her designs that have nothing to do with selling is really, really, really fantastic. And she probably didn't tell anybody that she won an award for one of her stained glasses. But it's this stained glass, it's kind of large. It was in the New Hope, Naked and New Hope show, and it's of a woman laying by a pool. A fabulous piece. But she would never tell anybody that she won an award for that.
Hey everyone, welcome to Scrambled Gallery of Gifts. I am Erin Simmons, one of the artists and the owner of Scrambled. So I grew up in an arts and crafts sort of family. My mom was a stained glass artist, and as a kid I wished she was a toy maker, and as a teenager I wished that she made jewelry. And then when I was a college student, I realized I could use all of her scraps to make my own stuff, sell my own stuff, and then buy whatever I want. So during college, so I didn't have to get a real job, I would go and grab all of her scraps and make mirrors and frames and things like that, and she would let me go to wholesale shows with her. And at one point I actually had 16 stores that I sold my stuff to. So I never had to get like I said, real job in college. So I got the bug though when I was about 3 years old. My mom had a little boutique in her home, in our home during the holidays, and she let me draw stick figures. I was charging 25 cents for the stick figures. A lady gave me $1, told me to keep the change, and that's what made this dream really start. So I did the stained glass for probably about I'd say on and off about 8 years. And then I was kind of tired of being in the studio all the time. I wanted to be out and about. So I discovered something called alcohol inks. Alcohol ink is actually very vibrant. So I started off with making these mosaics. So these are eggshells. So I lay the eggshell down on a clay piece that I make, and then I color them, and then I put resin on them. So I started off doing craft fairs, and selling my scrambled eggshell pendants. I was going to call it eggstastic and, using the egg word, but my uncle, he actually said one day, he goes, scrambled, and that was the beginning of Scrambled. This space is part kind of crafts and part art. So it's scrambled. It's kind of like whatever it wants to be. I don't have to say it's a gallery or a fine art gallery. I don't have to say it's a craft store. So it's scrambled. Whatever kind of is in here, that's what makes it what it is. Also, I'm scrambled. So it's like automatically an excuse for the way I act. People go like, I think I know why it's scrambled. They think it's me, but it really was the eggshells. So my uncle, sadly, right about 6 months before I opened this, he passed away. He was 60 years old, and he left. He didn't have any kids, so he had his nieces and his nephews, and he left us all a little chunk of money to follow our dreams. So my dream has been scrambled. There are 25 artists in the store. I am one of them. So at any one time, there'll be more of my stuff. It used to be about 70% of my things, and I only had 8 artists when I started. But this is my art. So what I do is, I don't draw things that are deep and have a lot of stories behind them. I like to draw pretty things. So what I do is I make my art without paintbrushes. So that's kind of my thing. I use my fingers, little tiny dental micro brushes, Q-tips, felt, credit cards. The mountains in my pictures are made with credit cards. So alcohol ink is a very liquid, it's basically like water. It's like rubbing alcohol. And I move the credit card to kind of give me those mountains. This flower here, this is actually compressed air. So I lay the ink down and then I use compressed air to make the petals. This as well, people tend to like this technique because it looks a little batik-ish, but it's really just the way alcohol inks interact with each other. So I feel sometimes like I'm cheating, but I learned how to manipulate the art to get what I want. And then one of my best sellers is actually these switch plates. So this is like the 10th batch of these. And again, I use the same sort of technique, no paintbrushes. I use anything but a paintbrush. So, and I'll use little micro pens and things to accent little fine details. But this is something where I'm using Victorian beads Victorian buttons as stamps for the clay, and then I kind of rough them up to have a little, I think, Mexican quality to them. So I started off with 8 artists. My cousin, she wanted to be a Disney artist. She ended up being a teacher, but I get to feature her stuff here, so it makes me so proud to be able to share my cousin's things. My mom, like I said, was a stained glass artist. She kind of retired from that, and she's upcycling now. So this is actually made with paint mixing sticks. So the 5-gallon mixing sticks, she cut them, set them up, stained them, and then put them together with this upcycled table that she had found. My dad is actually an oil artist. So he started painting when he was 38. Correction officer that wanted to know had no idea what he was going to do when he retired. So I remember him literally shadowing spheres when I was a kid, to learn how to shadow and going to Hudson Valley schools for art. And so now he is an oil artist, so that's how he's spending his retirement. My brother, who's actually also a plumber, he had to get in on the whole thing too, So he makes copper fixtures. So plumber by day, and then when he has to get away from the whole crew, the whole family, he goes into the garage and he makes some things for my store. My little niece, who's 7, she's going to be selling morning glory seeds here that she's been picking off the morning glories. So all the family is in this space. I try to make this place comfortable. I try to make this place welcoming, and a lot of people come in because they love the vibe of the store, and they feel, and they tell me that they feel that they are comfortable with asking me about how I get artists in here. So I basically say, show me your stuff, and if I like it, and if I can fit it in here, then it will be here. But some kind of fun features that I also try to incorporate in Scrambled so that we can be a part of the community is we have a not-for-profit of the month, and so people can give their spare change or whatever and do that. Thank you for spending time in Scrambled.
Erin is one big ball of energy. She just kind of bounces down the boardwalk. She's very engaging, but I think no one would know how serious she takes her own artwork. She would never tell anybody as much about her artwork. and she needs to show more of her artwork.
So Donna comes off like she is a gang member. She comes off kind of tough, like you expect, like, you know, you're gonna have to, earn your way in. But she's really a softie, and she's been a great support of my art too. And we work together really good because I have that little stained glass background. So I'm really touched when she comes to me for like ideas or advice as far as how things, how colors and costs of things, how to price things. So I'm really touched when she's been doing this for 50 years. I did it for like a period of like 10 years, and she comes to me to just kind of talk about her stuff and takes my advice, and I love it. That's what I'd say about her.
She's always late. If you want her to show up on time, tell her 15 minutes earlier. Then she gets mad at you if she shows up on time, because that's what happened. She showed up on time last week, and she got mad at me. She said, "You told me it was 5 o'clock." I said, "Well, because you're always late."